Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM Channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. We are at the Sports Roundtable on a very busy weekend day in sports. We've got a lot to talk about. Fired University of Michigan football coach Sherrone Moore was arraigned in court today. This story has a lot of legs, a lot of moving parts, legally as well as inside and outside the sports world. The Washington Commanders will face the New York Giants on Sunday, again without quarterback Jayden Daniels. And 44-year-old quarterback Phillip Rivers comes out of retirement to start for the Indianapolis Colts. My question is, why didn't 38-year-old former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick get a shot? We're talking about all of this and much more tonight. My guests are sports journalist Kelsey Nelson, WUSA TV morning anchor Wisdom Martin. He's also the author of Pass Interference, History of the Black Quarterback in the NFL, and award-winning journalist Lou Holder. Thank you all for joining the conversation. I want to jump right into it. We, of course, had today the arraignment of former Michigan football coach Sherrone Moore. He's facing charges after allegedly breaking into the home of a staffer that he had a relationship with. Michigan fired Moore on Wednesday over the alleged inappropriate relationship. He has been charged with felony home invasion, stalking, breaking and entering. He was granted $25,000 bond. Before I get to the question, I want you to hear what the prosecutor said in court this afternoon.
Immediately then proceeded to a kitchen drawer, grabbed several butter knives and a pair of kitchen scissors, and began to threaten his own life. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to make you watch. My blood is on your hands. You ruined my life.
And this is what the judge said about not contacting the alleged victim.
The named victim in this case will not be placed on the record. You may not have contact with that individual. That means no calling, no writing, no video chatting, no texting, no emailing, or any other form of contact the human mind can possibly fathom. No one in the world thinks that this person is going to reach out to you. Should they do so, and again, no one thinks that they're going to, you may not reply in any form or fashion.
Kelsey, I'll start with you. Let's put aside for a moment the sneaky link of it all and just talk about why are we so fascinated with this story?
My gosh. Well, first off, I just have to address the elephant in the room and just talk about the sound bites that you played, Harold. They're quite disturbing, I think, for anyone. And, we went from a regular Wednesday, those of us that cover college football, again, I'm in New York right now, most people preparing for the Heisman, right, bowl game season, what we thought would kind of be a chill college football landscape, kind of one that was expected, to all of a sudden this story breaking out, and we're hearing all these different bits and pieces. And obviously the most disturbing part of it is that we have a very high profile football coach, right, University of Michigan, a coach that should be preparing for a bowl game at the end of this month, who's now out. And then we hear the allegations, which you alluded to, which unfortunately it's not the first time in sports that we've heard something like this happening. But, somebody who was deemed, again, allegedly, we have to make sure we're using those words around all of this. But a young woman that was, a member of the staff, the athletic department, having to come out and talk about an inappropriate relationship that happened. Then we hear about mental health issues that alludes to the soundbite that you're having, Harold, with someone obviously threatening their own life. You think about, we just got out of October, not too long ago, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This is a coach that has a family. This is a coach that has kids. There's a lot of different parts to this story, but all that to say, I just think all of us are still processing this, but the three charges are all very serious. And so it went from not just him getting fired, not just us talking about his contract and that implications or if he'll ever coach again. We're now talking about things, right, that could be more on the criminal side of the legal side of the justice system. And so I think all that to say, Harold, this is a lot to process. And obviously, I think this is going to be the top story probably for the rest, at least the next 2 weeks, as we kind of end out and grind out the year. But it's just, again, you hate to see this. Somebody that got, thrust into a position, played relatively well, or coached relatively well with a Michigan football team. And now we're not talking anything close to football. We're talking just many instances of disturbances that are all centered around him. I just think that we're in an unfortunate place with someone who was entrusted, with the safety and well-being of the players, staff, and everyone around that University of Michigan football community.
Lou, I said before we came on that this was not a fall from grace. This was a plummet from grace. But you gave me pushback on that. Why not? What do you think?
Well, first of all, men and women not being able to control themselves has been from the beginning of time. And it's just a sad thing that this is just the latest in the news cycle. It's not a white issue. It's not a black issue, because Urban Meyer, there's been so many coaches that have done, stuff outside of their whatever relationships. Michigan is not without blame here, because, they hired this man. There was sign stealing. There was a lot of stuff going on with Sharon Moore that, it's just like, I don't know. It's just the latest in the cycle. Obviously, there's a race, a black-white issue, but I just feel that this is sad, because there's so many, like Kelsey said, there's so much good going on in sports right now, especially when you see people like Deshaun Jackson going to Delaware State and catapulting that franchise, that school to a very, very high level and affecting kids' lives. And we're not going to be talking about that now, because we're going to be talking about this particular incident, and now the fact that the judge is now saying do not contact this person and things of that nature. It's just gotten, and you know what? In our business, we are culpable in a way too, because we are in that generation of, if it bleeds, it leads. People like conflict. People like seeing people fall. People like talking about it. But at the end of the day, it's like, I just feel bad for the young lady, although she had part in all of this too. She had to be a willing participant in this as well. This man has a family. I don't know what could have been so appealing that you would just take a chance like that, knowing that people like of our skin color don't get jobs like that all the time at Michigan, a blue blood. And so it's just frustrating in a lot of ways that we're talking about it, but I understand that it is more than just football. This is a human condition issue. Something's not satisfying somebody that's going to go outside of their particular situation for a momentary whatever thrill, and then next thing you know, it's so bad that you want to take your own life or do damage to yourself. So there's a mental component to this thing now that is also quite disturbing to me. So the fall from grace, what I was saying is that I don't even know, I will say this on the record. If Michigan had beaten Ohio State, would we still be talking about, because at the end of the day, if he's winning football games and he's doing that and beating the teams that are like legendary on the schedule, then what? There's so many components to this, the greed of money and sex and whatever. That's what the thing is. It's the money and the sex that it just never ceases to amaze me. Who's the next person who's going to fall because of one of those two issues?
Well, it's so interesting you could say that. For a minute, I thought I was watching Hamilton. It's like never satisfied. It's like, the $13 million a year that's a whole lot to lose for, an alleged affair. But let's keep in mind, Wisdom, he was not fired for allegedly cheating on his wife. He was fired for having an alleged inappropriate relationship with a subordinate, with someone who worked under him. This was not a relationship with the head coach of the women's basketball team. This was not an alleged relationship with the head of the women's softball team or the women. This is somebody who worked. He was this staffer's boss. And that is where the University of Michigan is. And the other thing is there was also some reporting today, Wisdom, that the university knew about these allegations of a relationship back in September.
That's what I'm talking about, Harold.
This is December.
That's what I'm talking about. If that man went undefeated and they beat Ohio State, I don't even know if we'd be talking about this.
Go ahead, Wisdom.
So my issue, again, as shocking, as sad as this entire thing is, and it was a shock because, when I woke up and saw that he got fired, I was like, okay. But then the stuff that came afterwards, I was like, whoa, we're going to dark territory right now. My question is, okay, here he is, a young man. He's young by coaching standards.
39.
Yeah. And he's at one of the premier programs in the country, which is a rare job, as Lou, I think you mentioned this, for anybody to get, and especially for a black man to get that job is amazing. And then we end up here. My question is, how did this man end up in a situation to where you get fired? And not only do you get fired for the inappropriate relationship, which is clear as day, you're not supposed to do that, but that's in writing. You're not supposed to have a relationship with your subordinate. But how do you get to the point where you get fired for having that inappropriate relationship, and then it turns into basically a whole bunch of allegations of stalking, a bunch of other like hardcore things? You're going to kill yourself
with a butter knife.
Breaking in that, like allegations of breaking into homes. How were you at one point the leader of men at a premier program, and now you're all these allegations about inappropriate relationships? Again, that's not new. That part is not new. The inappropriate relationships and having sex outside of the marriage, that's not new. That's been going on since the beginning of time. But the point where former Coach Moore said, okay, now this is next level. So now I got to get the butter knife. I got to go to the house. I got to do all these things that are criminal. That was the next part of the thought process. I'm fired. So now criminal activity is next. That is my question. Was this already in him? Did they do? I mean, that's the part that's concerning to me.
And you know what, Wisdom? Yeah. You make a good point, because at the arraignment hearing today, his attorney said when he was trying to convince the judge, and he did, that he should be released on bond. The bond is $25,000. He said that Moore had no prior criminal record. He probably didn't have a parking ticket.
Right.
Okay. And to your point, you have lived 39 years with all the other things that that are facing black men in America, high profile or no profile or what have you. And you have no criminal record, and then you leap to these allegations and these charges. Kelsey is the only person who can explain that. So,
no, Kelsey is not. But to your point, Harold, again, like you said, the prosecution said that this relationship had been going on for years. And actually, if folks are on social media, I mean, there have been signs. People have seen signs like this. It seems like it wasn't like a whisper. But to Lou's point, it comes out. And then we're hearing that the athletic department was actually informed. The athletic director was informed of mental health issues on Sunday, right? So before the charges dropped, which I think is going to be something really important as we look to the next time he's in court, right? If somebody has mental issues, that's a whole different factor. But again, the bigger thing to your point is what made him get to that point. And think about it. I mean, he made history, right? First black coach in that role. And so, it's the whole penthouse to the outhouse thing, right? And then all of a sudden you lose essentially almost everything. And the person at the other end, I mean, it took me back, honestly, when I first heard it, I thought of the Ime Udoka situation, right? When he was with the Boston Celtics, he was in charge of having a relationship with a female subordinate at the time. And if we think about it, most jobs, most rules have HR policies in place so this does not happen. So someone cannot use their power to coerce somebody to doing something. That's why those rules are in place for many companies, right? But all that to be said, we also know that these things can happen when people are usually around people, right? Proximity. ease, proximity. She's up
Right.
working for the football team. Someone that is a female in sports. I also just thought about how far this is probably going to set back females, who are doing their job properly and right for those roles. Very hard to get roles right in the college football scene. So there's a lot here, Harold. But I think the bigger thing for me is like what's going to happen to the family, right?
Mm-hmm.
The children that are going to have to see this news, the wife that is going to have to, live through this. And also the young woman as well, right? I mean, this is something that's known on campus. This is somebody who works in that football community. Also, we're hearing that her family has ties to the larger football community. So it's just a bad situation all around. And that's kind of why I hate it. I hate that he's a Black man, but again, I think a lot of this was on his own imposed will. If everything that allegedly was, said is true.
I need to take a break, but we're going to continue this conversation. We have so much more to talk about. We're not going to forget about Jayden Elbow Daniels and the Washington Commanders as well. Stay with us. The Daily Drum will continue on Sirius XM, channel 141 in just a bit. The original Quiet Storm with Raheem Devon is next on WHUR-FM. We'll be back with the Sports Roundtable in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue our conversation at the Sports Roundtable. My guests are sports journalist Kelsey Nelson, WUSA TV morning anchor Wisdom Martin, also author of Pass Interference, History of the Black Quarterback in the NFL. Still waiting on my signed copy. That's another show. And award-winning journalist Lou Holder. I want to go back to a point that you were making before the break about this, the former coach of the University of Michigan. You were talking about all of the other things, Kelsey, that would concern you in the aftermath. But there are two things which you didn't have a chance to mention. One of them is, as they say, this ain't over, because it is quite possible that there could be lawsuits coming down the pipe from the alleged victim. But also, do you believe, Wisdom, that Moore can redeem himself after this?
Well, he can redeem. There's a way to, I don't know what that path would be, but there's always a path to redemption well after the fact. But as far as coaching, I think that's a wrap. I don't know how you could go back to in coaching on any level after something like this, because it's so high profile. So I think the coaching aspect of it, I think that's totally gone. Now, the family aspect, that's something he has to work out with his family. The community aspect, wherever his community is, I'm sure after all this said and done, the courts and everything else, there's always a path to redemption down the road. In fact, I just talked to, you guys remember Javaris Crittenden from the Wizards, who got into the incident with Gilbert Arenas. He's out on a tour right now. He's working with Eton Thomas, a former Wizard, talking about his path to redemption, because he, murder charges, went to jail, got out of jail early. Now he's talking about, look, don't go down the same dark path that I went to. So I brought that up to say there is a path to redemption. I don't know what that is for former Coach Moore, but there is a way. At this point, I think he just has to get through, number one, all the criminal charges. He's already been separated from Michigan, so he's got to get through the criminal charges. And like you said, Harold, there's going to be, or Kelsey, there's going to be lawsuits, probably from different directions. He's got to try to repair his family. That's a whole nother thing right there, if that's something that's even doable. But once he gets past all that, then the redemption tour can start. Now, again, I don't know when that will be. It's possible, but you got to tread carefully, because years down the road, you can do that.
I think actually all the actions that we saw after the firing was because of the realization of how far the fall has just happened. It's like you just got fired from Michigan. I guess, in a split second, you just lose all understanding of wow, this is really, really bad, and I don't want to be here anymore. And I'm going to take people's lives with me, whatever. But again, he made the situation
right.
You had the blessing of a lifetime to be even coaching at this institution. You weren't doing such a bad job. And but if there was a cover up for any extended period of time, this goes way beyond Sharon Moore, right? Like if there was money being put into somebody's account, if there was whatever, I mean, Michigan, the administration now that's saying, you know what, that we don't condone this, whatever. Well, it's almost like the Joe Paterno thing going on at Penn State, like years and years ago. Like a lot of people knew what was going on there, but when they finally found out, you know, it's just the fall from, like you said, Harold, going back to the whole fall from grace. But that was just, to me, that seems all kind of knee-jerk reaction to the fact you just got fired from Michigan, and people are going to find out why you got fired from Michigan. I don't know if I want to be around anymore. I don't know, but there is always a path back to redemption. If you want to take the path, like Winston said, it's not going to be easy, but if you want to take the path and be an example and whatever, I'm sure it's always there.
But really quickly, Harold, I want to add this in really quickly.
Real quick, because we got to go to the Commanders.
Remember when Grambling State hired Art Briles, Lou, in Wisdom as an offensive coordinator? And there was a lot of pushback because of what Art Briles had been at Baylor in regards to sexual assault. And what happened? The fans and the football community, especially the HBCU sports community, voiced their opinions, which ended up in Art Briles actually resigning, right, from that position. It put Grambling State football in a bad position. So I hear what you're saying about the redemption tour, but let's be honest. And look, we are all the same color in this room. The redemption tour looks a lot different and will look a lot different for Teron Moore. If they could do that to a white coach at a black university, think about how hard it's going to be, I think, for him to come back. So I think it could happen, but at 39, it might be a while before they let him back into saving grace. Ray Rice still hasn't been put back into saving grace as a football player. So again, I think we have to calm down on the redemption. I think this is going to have long implicating for him.
Kelsey, you can't drop the mic until after the end of the program. Okay, we gotta get through the rest of the show before you start drop the mic nuggets.
You got multiple mics to drop. It's all
right.
good.
We have multiple mics to drop. Okay, so my gracious, Wisdom. You know, you and I text about this all the time. You know, Jayden Daniels will not be under center again. Against the New York 2-11 Giants this weekend. And let me just play a little bit about what head coach Dan Quinn said about Daniels before he made that decision not to play him again this coming week.
Yeah, we're really bummed they got, re-aggravated on this specific injury going into it. Thought he had a good week. There were things to improve upon into the game to get started, but we haven't gone down all the way yet. We just kind of went through the first evaluations this week to get ready to play. So I'll have a better update as we're moving forward.
Wisdom, I said to you the last time you were on the program, is this shades of RG3 2.0? And you were like, no, let's not. Okay, have you changed your mind?
I have not changed my mind.
Okay,
I have not. Here's the thing. I'm still. I know it's bad. 8 straight is horrific. And last week, losing to Minnesota 31-0 in a dome where there was no weather, it was a factor. It is horrible. Jayden getting hurt again, horrible. Zach Ertz getting out, torn ACL, horrible. I know all these things are bad, but here's the okay. So, and if they lose this week to the Giants, it's going to be really bad because the Giants have lost 7 straight. But here's the thing: last year, everybody remembers last year. The Commanders got a lot. Jayden's good, no mistake about that. The Commanders got a lot of breaks last year. The miracle in Maryland where they beat Chicago, sent Chicago in a downward spiral. Washington kept going. They got a lot of breaks last year, and then this year, and then remember, in the NFL, you play a weaker schedule when you have a weaker season. So the previous year, they had a weak season. They played a softer by the numbers schedule. Then they get the wins. Jayden was playing out of his mind. Nobody had seen him yet. They ascend. They win all the games. This year, they come back, harder schedule. And then everybody is almost like every other person on the team is hurt. Every week, somebody's going down. You can't play in the NFL with backups against everybody else's starters. Now, that doesn't excuse that 31-0 beatdown. That's unexcusable. I don't know what that's about. That says to me that there are going to be a lot of changes in the offseason. I think we already know that. That's a given because this is bad on a number of different levels. They will get a softer schedule by the numbers next year. So, and hopefully everybody will be healthy again, and things will turn around and swing back on the upswing. We just got to get through this season. And yes, Jayden, when he's healthy, should play whenever that is the rest of this season.
You think he should? You think he should play out the rest of
Absolutely. He's a young guy. He needs the reps. Joe Burrow, I told you about this last time, Harold, has been hurt about 7,000 times since he's been in the NFL. And every time he comes back during the season if it's possible, because you need reps. You need reps to get ready for the next season. You can't just sit out and then roll into the next season and then be like, okay, I'm good. I think you need reps, in my opinion. I'm not a coach, obviously, but I think he needs to I think he needs to play when he's healthy, whatever that means.
So, Lou, I want you to listen to this and then respond. This is Commanders offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury and wide receiver Terry McLaurin talking just yesterday about trying to get back to who they are.
That's not who we are. It's just, was a bad game. And I think that is the sentiment of the offense. And so I'm excited to see how we attack the rest of the week and attack Sunday.
Yeah, all losses are hard, but that one definitely was, to be honest, it was embarrassing. You know what I mean? Because you don't work your butt off all week to not score any points if you're offense, and defense, you don't work all week to give up 30 points.
Lou, there's a whole lot of self-reflection. The commander standing in the mirror. Who am I? What am I? What am I going to do with help me out with this, Lou. Can they get back? They've got a losing season, but can they? This is now for pride.
Right. Well, first let me address, because this is important. It goes hand in hand, what Wisdom said. They are in a conundrum, the Commanders, because this is a young quarterback in his second year that does need to play. He's having problems reading defenses. There's things that have happened that he does need to play, but he cannot stay healthy. So there's like a little crux between. This last game, they had all their offensive weapons. Terry McLaurin was playing. Deebo Samuels was playing. Zach Ertz was playing. That offensive line was playing very well. That brings me to the first person that we heard sound from. Cliff Kingsbury is part of the problem here. The play calling from him has been suspect at best through some of this season. And although injuries have been there, the running the ball with Chris Rodriguez that needed to happen more. There's just a lot of things. There's no way. It's very, very hard, Harold Fisher, to go to a professional football game and not even get in field goal range to kick a field goal. You usually come away with at least some points. Again, it's not just the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes. You need to know your personnel, and there's certain things that scratch my head from both of the coordinators. The defensive coordinator has already been relieved. Dan Quinn is now calling the defensive plays. Cliff Kingsbury last year was one of these, is he going to take a head coaching job? He was like the cat's meow. He was at the there has been a fall. You want to talk about fall from grace, right, Harold Fisher? To me, what Cliff Kingsbury is doing, especially with that young man at quarterback, I think that there's some things there that need to be changed. But again, there is a level of pride that does need to happen, because you're now it's over now as far as the other games. You have 4 games left, and they're all in your division, and you got the Eagles twice, right? And so if there's not and then some people forget all that, we should lose for a draft pick. Give me a break. There's people who are fighting for their jobs now, right? And there's people who need to see what's going to be happening now, right? But there has just been a lot of coaching that has been suspect, for at least things to be thinking about. But we'll see. The Giants are winnable. The Eagles, they're not playing well at all. The Eagles are not playing well at all. And then you got Dallas again. So we're going to see who wants to play and who's going to be there. But there's going to be a lot of evaluation at the end of the year. But I just think that is the NFL, because you mentioned that Chicago Bears, and you mentioned it, Harold, that Chicago Bears game, and after they lost to that Miracle in Maryland, how they plummeted and didn't win many games. Well, guess what? The Chicago Bears and the Commanders played again this year, and since that game, the Commanders have not won one game. So that game has meant a lot. And then you see Caleb Williams and Drake May now aggressing and Jayden Daniels digressing. It's all part of the NFL. Things are going to work themselves out as far as long haul. That's why, it's kind of you do have to worry about keeping Jayden around for a long time because it is his entire career. But right now he has to stay healthy. He's not healthy. He's not healthy.
No, he's
not
really
100% healthy.
And it's a good thing that elbow is not his throwing arm. And yes, Kelsey, he's definitely a competitor, trying to make a tackle, but in hindsight, maybe he should have been like, some of the punters. It's like it's
hard to tell somebody to do that, Harold. It's hard to tell a competitor to
exactly.
It's trying to be heroic. Yeah.
That's like telling a wild animal, don't be wild.
Right. If I was a quarterback, I would have just let him go on. I'm just I want to compete running to the bank. That's what that's
right.
To that point, though, Harold, before when Jayden Daniels got drafted, that was one of the Achilles heels that he had on him, right? If he could slide, and then sometimes he can be too heroic. I would go on WWL radio in New Orleans all the time and talk about his days from LSU. But really quickly, one thing I don't think people are talking about enough in the National Football League right now, we're seeing the importance of backup quarterback play, right? We're going to talk about the Indianapolis Colts. Let's remember, Marcus Mariota was signed to a 1-year, $8 million deal back in March. And if Jayden Daniels is injury prone, that backup quarterback position does matter. Baltimore, right next door to us, right in the DMV area. Lamar Jackson has been hurt this season. Cooper Rush wasn't doing the job. They have to come back and elevate Tyler Huntley, who now is at least more like Lamar Jackson play, but Baltimore also on a downward spiral play. It's happening in Atlanta. So I say that to say, I think this is an important time. I want Jayden to get reps. I want him to stay healthy as well and fully heal and fully recover. But again, I think this is a time when the team, going back to the keeping your job, they do need to look at some of these guys and evaluate the guys, but especially that quarterback position. I can't say enough how important that backup quarterback role is right now in the National Football League with the way that we are seeing injuries continue to happen to star and key players. You talked about Joe Burrow earlier. Look what happened with Cincinnati and who had to play quarterback there. The Browns. I mean, so many teams have really had to rely on backups. And so again, I think is Marcus Mariota going to be the long-term backup guy? We're talking about quarterback ages. You can look at him for that, right? Or should Washington really be looking next season to see who really can back up Jayden Daniels and who maybe has a more similar playing style? And again, this is no knock on Marcus Mariota. I think he's tried to do the job with what he had. We talked about the backup players that he was playing with. But the biggest thing I think for Jayden Daniels, again, if he's going to be the franchise guy and the guy that they trust in Washington, to Lou's point, there is some development there. As much as we love JD5, there is some progression that needs to happen. There is some in to keep himself healthy. And like you guys said, in gameplay, do you hurt yourself or do you count on your guys to make that tackle? Because you don't always have to be the hero on the football field.
Kelsey, I'm going to continue with you. When we talk about the Philip Rivers, should I say Philip Grandpa Rivers, with more children than Wisdom Martin. He's got 10 kids. He's 44 years old.
All with his own wife, though. The same wife.
All with his own wife. Right. Hey, I mean, look, hey.
And
his marriage.
No shade.
He's 44 older than Wisdom Martin.
Right. How about that? Exactly. and can we just say that Wisdom Martin looks so much better? But so then there's that. But what am I missing, Kelsey? That Colin Kaepernick was in Prince George's County this week, talking about his new project, Lumi AI, to help students develop AI characters and tell stories. That's a wonderful thing. He's still doing his social activism, but I just want to look at this on the face of it, and you can do the deep dive. Like I said, Philip Rivers, 44, called out of retirement.
Yeah.
Okay. And Colin Kaepernick, my frat brother, is 38 years old, and he's still standing by the phone unless there's something I don't know. Why is this happening?
Oh, Harold.
We all know on this
We
call,
know.
like we can go back to why he hasn't played, right, since 2016,
Right.
even though he has said he continues to work out and stay in shape. And as you said, we all just saw him both in Prince George's County and Montgomery County. You can still see he's of football stature. There's another Black quarterback, though, that also said, hey, my phone didn't ring. And that's Cam Newton as well, who talked about it on his 4th and 1 podcast, like, hey, I'm staying ready to play. He said he never officially retired. But to give Phillip Rivers props, when he did last play, even though it was a while ago, he was a good quarterback in the National Football
5 years.
It's crazy though that phone call was made, and honestly, I think when people first saw it, people really didn't know if this was like true. They didn't believe it. They were like, but if you do look at what the Colts and the hands have dealt them, having 3 quarterbacks, Daniel Jones having a stellar season, right, fellas, to start the season, and you think things are going well. You look at the job that the female owner of the Indianapolis Colts has done, but you see Anthony Richardson get hurt, Riley Leonard. So all that to say, like, it's crazy that we're on this, and I know he had the backup play, but let's be honest, Colin Kaepernick will never play a down again in the National Football League. I think that just has to be said. And as much as we can go back to, we've all seen his stellar play. Wisdom wrote the book on this. I remember when we were the 49ers and got to a Super Bowl and fell just short. But what he did had consequences. And though he got praised by companies like Nike after the situation, stand for something or, fall for anything, Colin Kaepernick's career now is exactly what he's doing. And he's always going to be someone that played in the National Football League. He'll always have stories to tell. But when he took that stand for social justice, he took a stand to not play football again, because we have a pipeline of quarterbacks coming out of the collegiate ranks, or they'll do what they're doing now and call up old men to come back. Phillip Rivers just turning 44 on Monday to come back in. So essentially they'll look at every other option but he who is Colin Kaepernick. And I know it sucks, Harold, like you said, but this is kind of where we stand. But again, I think we all kind of knew this would happen. Colin maybe didn't know what happened to this extremity, but the National Football League, especially if we're talking about the administration that right now is in place, an administration who, when he was president prior, called this move a SOB type of move to actually kneel on the ground. I just don't see any way that, Roger Goodell or anybody in the National Football League, any of the 32 owners, would allow him to ever step back on the football field.
Well, and Wisdom, the point that Kelsey was making about Cam Newton, I think they're not going to call him because they can't find a helmet big enough to fit over his hats. But I think that's, again, that's another conversation. Your thought on this?
I agree with Kelsey.
Nick Phil Rivers thing.
Well, once he took the knee, I said, "This is a wrap." I mean, I do think he knew that, because the NFL is the NFL. I mean, they make no secrets about where they stand on things, and they make, even back then. So once he took that knee, started taking that knee, and started making noise against them, I knew it was a wrap. Whenever he got out of that 49ers contract, no other owner was going to pick him up. They were not going to sign him. At no point was he ever going to get back in the league. Then he sued him, and then they settled out of court. So I said, it's a wrap. He's never getting back in the NFL. He had that little tryout down in Atlanta, and that was a debacle because, some of the teams were acting all funny, and he moved it. So, yeah, he's never going to play again in the NFL. And there was never any intention for any NFL team to pick him up once he started the kneeling. Now, in regards to Phillip Rivers, I will never understand how these NFL teams reach back and get these old guys and try to get them to play football. Phillip Rivers been out of the league for, at this point, forever.
5 years.
5
yeah.
years. 5
half
years.
Half a decade.
Yeah, and has 0 Super Bowls to show when he was in his prime. I mean, he didn't even get to the Super Bowl when he was in his prime. So I'm like, I'm over it. Even the whole thing, and if Aaron Rodgers wins this year, I'll be quiet. But Aaron Rodgers is not any good anymore. He's with the Steelers. But they waited on him like they were desperate. He's old by NFL standards. This goes on too much for me. They don't develop quarterbacks enough. Green Bay is the only team that I've seen where they went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. They developed or did whatever they did with Aaron Rodgers. He's crazy too. But they got, once Brett Favre left, they went to Aaron Rodgers, and then they got Jordan Love. And then when Aaron Rodgers left, they had Jordan Love. So Green Bay figured it out. But the rest of these teams, they're just grasping at straws. I mean, I think Drew Brees the other day that said that the Colts called him and he thought it was a joke? Seriously?
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't understand what these owners, well, I do understand, because I don't think a lot of them really know football. I think they just grasp on the shiny things. But grabbing a 44-year-old guy to come back and quarterback your team after he's been sitting on the sidelines for 5 years is a horrible move.
Sitting on the sidelines of a high school team,
Right.
coaching high school ball. And look, two things, because Lou, I know you've got a heart out. Lou, Phil Rivers could get hurt.
Huh?
Phil
Yeah, I mean,
Rivers.
this is not going to end with some crowning whatever with Philip Rivers. I mean, this is they pick somebody, whatever. I'm actually glad that Colin Kaepernick is not playing football anymore. I think he's doing more in the space that he's in now than opening up if he doesn't be perfect in the NFL, then they're going to say, well, we told you. So there is a point of no return with Colin Kaepernick, that he's now in a space where he is changing and affecting a lot more lives now than he would ever do on a football field. But I don't even know if it's black or white. Any team that is actually coming after somebody who hasn't played for 4 years or 4 or 5 years and is that old and that rusty, to me, it's just, again, it's part of the news cycle. And we all know why Colin Kaepernick is not playing football right now. We kind of know that.
Yeah, real quick, Lou, because you mentioned something earlier, and I want you to real briefly talk about this. I only have a handful of minutes.
And I do have one more thing to say. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about these black players who are now finding second life at HBCUs.
Yeah. So I mean, the new renaissance started at Wisdom School, Jackson State, when Primetime went there, and he built the program, then went to Colorado. But since then, even before that, because Doug Williams did it at Grambling. But I have to admit, I went to the MEAC championship game to watch Delaware State play South Carolina State. South Carolina State will be in the Celebration Bowl. But to know that Deshaun Jackson and Clinton Portis, who is the running backs coach on that staff, took a team that was 1-11 and turned it to an 8-4 and one win away from going to the Celebration Bowl, winning their conference. And their running attack, led by Marquise Gillis, was the number one running attack in the entire FCS. And to talk to those individuals, both Clinton and Deshaun, on how they have found new life, right? Taking what they've learned in the NFL and making changes in their with these young men, it's just been fascinating. So when everybody wanted to talk about Sharon Moore, to me, I was like, let's not forget about all the other stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
Marshall Faulk just being hired by Southern, right?
Wow.
There's just so many great stories of African black coaches that are doing tremendous things, that I am not going to let the narrative just be about the fall of grace of Sharon Moore. I am going to still, if somebody gives me a mic, I'm still going to say, wait a minute, let's talk about all the others too. Not just about the one that fell, but the ones who are actually doing great stuff. And to see those young men empowered at Delaware State, one win to go to 8 was just the highlight of my fall season to see that.
Real quick, I only have about a minute. Kelsey, you're up in New York. I know you can't talk a whole lot about it when you're talking about great African American, but what's happening in New York, Kelsey? What can you tell me?
My gosh, well, I hope everyone tunes in, of course, on Saturday for the Heisman Awards. I'm so excited to be one of the Heisman voters, my first Heisman ceremony. And then, of course, also the Commanders playing here. So there's a lot happening in New York. I've already seen a couple fans on my way here with them. But this truly is the place to be. And I'm excited for that next man to join that elite class of Heisman winners.
Harold, I got one more thing.
Look, how excited are you to be a voter, though?
It means a lot. Let's be honest. For me, as a Black woman, especially in the college football space, there is not enough. So I know the role I have, in covering especially Maryland football. And, as you talk about great things happening, Mike Locksley getting renewed and already having a 5-star recruit in that recruiting class to kind of revamp Maryland football, I think is also huge. But it means a lot, Harold. So I don't take it lightly. And excited to bring a little DC flavor here to the Big Apple.
Yeah.
Okay,
Harold,
look,
I gotta say one more thing.
You got 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Hey, listen, none of us would be here if it wasn't for those inventors and those people that set up NABJ 50 years ago today.
Yeah, 50th
And
anniversary.
I'm just so thankful to the Maureen Bunions and to all those people who took a stand and created NABJ, the National Association
Sam
of Black
Ford.
Journalists. So the four of us, Wisdom and I went to Cleveland for the convention this past year, and to see all of those founders there, those people that risked their jobs to be part of the organization that set up success, that the four of us could be sitting here talking today, 50 years later. I just want to kudos. Thank you so much. Thank you.
There you go. Look, thank you all so very much. Wisdom Martin, Lou Holder, Kelsey Nelson. Kelsey, I'm going to call you next week and on Monday and grab a soundbite from you.
I would love that.
So look, thank you all so very much for participating in the Sports Roundtable. This is the best one I think we have ever done. That is the Daily Drum for this Friday, December 12th. For News Director Renee Nash, I'm Harold Fisher. Good night, everyone, and have a wonderful weekend.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.